Hello, today I will tell you a haunted story. The red silk cloth. In the dead of night, the old man's stern voice must have echoed loudly. It startled little bee, causing a sudden shift in his demeanor. His eyes no longer sparkled with the strange light they once did. His lips drooped like an old acquaintance. Yet, the unfamiliar aspect was the tinge of regret on his face, as if he had just lost a childish joy. Something's not right. This younger brother of mine is different. It's as if he's come from a dark place unknown to humanity. Mr. Oot thought so. Hence he stayed awake until the rooster crowed at dawn. Today, after the morning's weeding, Mr. Oot went straight to his elder brother's house in the neighboring hamlet. The two brothers, being relatives, had been close since childhood, with no secrets between them. "Brother Tam, I'm really worried. Little B at home is changing more and more every day. I don't know if I can handle it in the future." The old man spoke with sadness to his older brother. Mr. Tam looked at his younger brother with sympathy, mingled with concern. He had heard many things about the nephew more than his younger brother, but he didn't know how to start the conversation smoothly. "I know you're troubled by him, but what can we do? After all, he's our flesh and blood." Saying this, he paused, then fell silent. Mr. Oot recounted the strange occurrences that had been happening for some time to his elder brother. Mr. Tam listened quietly for a while before advising his younger brother. "Whatever you want to do, you have to know the source thoroughly. I've heard many terrifying things about the kid, but I still keep believing. Sometimes I want to speak up, but then I'm afraid of making you sad. With just the two of us, you spend all your time in the fields, so how could you know about what happens at home? If you want to know what the kid does, you have to secretly observe to understand." After saying that, the old man hurried into the house and brought out a chicken with its legs tied, handing it to Ong Oot. "Your face looks pale. Take this chicken home and make some green bean porridge to eat. This is all I can do to help you." On his way back, Ong Oot was caught in a heavy rain. It was pouring. Thunder and lightning crackled across the sky. The road became slippery under the dazzling light of the lightning. When he reached home, Ong Oot quickly put the chicken in the coop and then rushed out to the field. "If the mud washes away, it'll be gone." He thought so and ran faster and faster. About 50 steps from the edge of the field, Ong Oot suddenly stopped. It wasn't because he was out of breath, but because he didn't want to go any further when he remembered his brother's words. "You have to observe secretly. See what the kid does every time I go to the field." The back door faintly appeared in the rain and lightning. Lou didn't come running out as usual. Maybe it was chasing after some neighbor's dog. The door that Ong had built to keep foxes away from the chicken coop was only about 50 steps away. Ong Oot heard the chickens screaming loudly. "It's those miserable foxes again." Ong Oot grabbed a stick, pushed open the door, and rushed in. The door and its rusty hinges squeaked, and before him appeared the eerie strip of silk from a previous night. The only difference was that it was much longer and had a reddish hue like blood in the flickering lightning. As soon as he heard the noise, the strip of silk swiftly retreated towards the front of the house. It vanished in an instant, leaving no trace behind. Ong Oot looked into the chicken coop and only saw a bunch of red feathers lying there. He hurried to the bed and saw the kid's face as if sleeping, but the corner of his mouth had a little blood stain. "It's not the foxes that ate the chickens. The chickens died because of that red strip of silk." But what was that strip of silk? Why did the kid's mouth have bloodstains while asleep? After that night, Ong Oot began to notice many strange things happening in the house. It was normal for farmers working in the fields to get bitten by insects and bleed. Others who got bitten one day would dry up the next day. However, the insect bite on Ong Oot's leg didn't heal. It remained oozy and pus-filled. Sometimes it lasted for a week or a month without healing. Finally, he had to resort to medicine to cure it. Could it be because of that strip of silk? Ong Oot quickly dismissed the thought as too fantastical. But what could that thing possibly be? So he devised a plan to make everything clear. In the dry season of January, the fields were parched and the grass was burning. Since the rice fields had been harvested, people went to the fields to catch mice and birds. Ong Oot caught many birds, brought them home, and grilled them until they were fragrant. But the kid didn't eat. Lately, he had been losing weight. Looking at him, Ong felt sorry because he knew about the internal bleeding. In the afternoon, the neighbors slaughtered a pig and brought Ong a portion of the meat. He tossed the meat onto a bamboo rack hanging over the kitchen fireplace, then hurried off to set his fishing trap for the evening. After walking 3 or 4 li in the garden, Ong suddenly remembered the red strip of silk and returned. The door with its squeaky hinges always made noise, so Ong Oot had mixed some mud into it. Thanks to this, when he pushed the door, it made no sound. In the dim light of dusk, Ong Oot saw the strip of silk swaying in the kitchen. It looked like an object enjoying itself, unaware of the presence of a stranger. Cautious, gentle, step by step, Ong Oot approached the strip of silk. The January night sky was bright. The converging light of the stars pierced through the roof's holes, shining into the silent kitchen like a sheet. Ong Oot opened his eyes wide to see that strange thing. The thing that haunted him every night in his sleep. The cause of the chickens and ducks' deaths. And also, for 5 years he hadn't tasted meat because of it. Fury, hatred, rage, all because of that wicked strip of silk.
Suddenly, Ong froze.
He felt as if he had been submerged in water for a long time. The strip of silk looked like a tongue, with small taste buds protruding from its body. These small threads trembled, twisted, and scratched the piece of meat lying on the shelf. Then it disappeared towards the front of the house, only to reappear right after. The action was repeated with the regular chomp chomp sounds of a child enjoying a meal. Ong's mind was filled with thoughts. A human tongue?
Impossible.
A human tongue can't be that long? If we estimate it standing in the kitchen, the thing must be over 3 meters long, not to mention its origin. But it was clearly a tongue, not a strip of silk. The tongue was licking the piece of meat greedily, and each time, the piece of meat diminished in front of Ong's eyes. Ong Oot suddenly remembered the rumors and became horrified. His tongue stiffened while the red strip of silk danced and fluttered in front of the meat. His hand tremblingly groped for something. Anything in his hand would give him courage in the face of fear. In the empty kitchen, there was nothing within reach that he could grab. His trembling hand accidentally touched something warm. It was the charred wood from the afternoon's roasted bird. The warmth of the charcoal didn't ease Ong Oot's trembling, but rather increased his despair. There was no running away, because the kid was still inside. Then Ong rushed to grab the flint at the head of the bed. Then he swung. The sound of gongs and shouts echoed eerily in the deserted night. In the village on the edge of the marsh, near Ong Oot's house, chaos erupted as people yelled and called for help to extinguish the fire. The ferocious flames raged high in the dry season, illuminating the entire quiet countryside. When people arrived, Ong Oot's house had already been reduced to ashes in a blink of an eye. The young men used coconut husks to extinguish the fire in search of any unfortunate souls, but found nothing but charred remains and a few shards of pottery. People whispered and speculated, unsure if anyone inside the house had managed to escape or had been consumed by the flames. Even afterwards, no one understood what had happened to the unfortunate brothers. Among the various speculations, there was always one person who remained silent. That was the old man Tam from the neighboring village. He remained silent not out of ignorance, but out of choice. And one should not blame the reticence of an old man who was so close to the earth and the sky, because if one day he did not reveal the truth, then how could there be such a terrifying story